You care about a character, you pull for them, build them, watch their story unfold, and then they suddenly vanish. Have you ever pulled for a character because you love their story, only for the story to never mention them again? It hurts because for a moment it felt like they really mattered. But in honkaistarrail, characters are temporary. Not just in combat, not just on banners, but in the story too. Remember Seele, Blade, Locha? When's the last time you ever saw them? Starrail doesn't really want you to get attached. It wants you to move on to their next shiny toy. Starrail builds these beautiful, complex characters. It gives them a space to shine and then it just drops them. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the characters you loved. It's about pushing out new content and making sure that you're still spending. To the developers, the characters don't drive their game. Sales do.
Hello, I like money.
And if you thought, Usas, are you stupid? No shit, it's a gacha game. Then this isn't the video for you. It's never about who you love. It's about who's next. And it's kinda sad to think about. I love this game, and a huge part of that love comes from how deeply I care for some of the characters. But if the developers only see them as a temporary source of revenue, just pieces of content to cycle through patch by patch, then it starts to feel hollow. Like the things I care about most are being treated as disposable. You're never meant to stay attached. You're meant to stay interested. So, you move on. Because the game already has. Honkai Star Rail is an incredibly polished game. Its stories are emotionally charged, and the writing hits hard. And every new arc brings in characters that feel real. For a moment. But once their arc is over, those characters vanish. Not just from the spotlight, but from the world itself. Dialogues? Gone. A simple mention? Rare at best. And it's not because their stories were complete. It's because they've served their purpose, to bring in revenue for the pack. In a game where new content drives profit, the spotlight must keep moving. The story must focus on what's next, not what's been. And the result? Characters we once cared about are being treated like temporary attractions. Emotionally resonant, beautifully written, and ultimately disposable. I guess I'm just trying to say that the attachment for the characters you love always feel interrupted, and how Honkai Star Rail, whether intentionally or not, keeps you from holding on to people you once cared about. Let's start with Seele, one of the earliest 5 stars in the game, and Yarlo 6's poster child. We watched her grieve, fight, and evolve. She wasn't just part of the story, she and Bronya were the story. And she's my favorite character in the entire game. Her design, her story, her personality. She was the one I instantly clicked with. When I first started the game back in 2.2, my plan was to save for Seele's rerun. But now, she's just gone. Not a mention, not a follow-up, only a rare encounter on the Express. It's almost like she never existed. Oh, and that rerun I was waiting for? It never came. She was reran once back in 1.4 or October of 2023. Not out of importance, but she wasn't going to generate as much sales anymore. And part of that is most likely because she's been power crept. Seele at the release of the game was incredible. A high damage unit with a solid storyline that matched her power. But as new characters were introduced, they started to outshine her. Some offering better utility, better synergy, or just more raw damage. As the meta shifted, Seele's relevance in the meta became less and less clear. Newer characters filled in the gaps she once filled, and players slowly stopped using her. And that's the issue with power creep. It makes those once loved characters feel irrelevant, even when they're still emotionally important to the story. Seele's popularity began to fade as newer, shinier units came into the spotlight. And as her power weakened in comparison, so did her presence in the game's narrative. You can still use her in battle, but the game doesn't care about her anymore. Not the way it did when she was the face of the story. When characters stop selling, they stop existing. I think another great example of this cycle is Firefly. On a release, the game went all in. It was really hard not to feel excited. 6 consecutive videos focused entirely on her, each revealing just a little more. Her lore, her visuals, her combat identity. Patch 2.3 felt like it existed just for her. The new endgame mode, Apocalyptic Shadow, it was practically designed with her kid in mind. The Memory of Chaos rotation, same deal. Her banner wasn't just a normal banner. It was like a full-blown campaign. But what I think really sold her, or what really pushed people to want her, was how well the game wove her into the story. She wasn't just strong as a character. She was tragic, her backstory, the quiet grief. It all hit hard. The game built her up perfectly, not just to pull for her, but to care about her. And guess what? It worked. She ended up becoming my first ever limited 5-star. I pulled for her because I loved her story. Not just her power or her animations. I just wanted her on my team because I fell for her. Or that sounds a little weird. Maybe I felt for her? But once her banner ended, silence. The only time she ever shows up again in terms of media was during her rerun near the end of 2.x. And even then, it was for one reason: monetization. It's frustrating, really. I think Firefly's character was beautifully written. Her role in Penacony arc was essential, but none of that protected her from being thrown aside the moment she was no longer profitable.
Elephant in the room is our girlfriend Firefly, guys.
This game knows how to make us care, and that's what makes it so effective and so painful. They build these characters up, make us fall in love, and then move on like none of it mattered. But you want to care. Maybe you spent hours learning their stories, reading their profiles, and diving into their quests. You get invested in their struggles and their relationships with other characters. You start imagining what could happen next, how their arcs will evolve. One of the recent characters I absolutely fell in love with is Nycto. His presence and his personality. He felt like someone worth remembering. But the sad truth is that after 3.1, he'll probably never have a major story relevance again. During the main story quest, Nycto quite literally says goodbye to his friends, saying that they'll probably never see him again. They're still there, in the background, floating in the void of maybe we'll come back to them later. But in that moment when they vanish from the spotlight, when their banner ends, when they are no longer part of the active meta, you start to realize you were never meant to form a long-term bond. And you're left there wondering, was it all worth it? And of course, the answer is subjective. You may still pull the new shiny toy. You may still get hooked onto the next character, the next arc, the next update, and you may enjoy it for a time. But that underlying truth never changes. This game doesn't want you to stay attached. And the worst part, you're almost forced to play by their rules, whether you like it or not. Who says? This is what a gacha game's supposed to be. Shut the f. Yes, we are aware of this ebb and flow of the game. But have you ever stopped and thought about the way the game teaches us to invest in characters, only to pull them out from under us before we can truly form a bond with them? But yeah, this is how these games are designed to be. Anyone with 2 brain cells knows this. So why am I stating the obvious? I don't know, just let me rant. Firefly and Boohill arrive, and suddenly every enemy seems breakable. Entire events shifted towards toughness bars. The new endgame is tailored. Then comes Fei Xiao, and just like that, everything pivots. Follow-up mechanics get a spotlight. Now we're in the Herta and CASTORICE meta, and wouldn't you know it, the game starts favoring erudition, AoE damage, and HP drain, a meta reshape once again. And most of you probably watch countless videos about this, how power creep and meta shifts are horrible and predatory. It's selling you systems. It's selling you an entire patch built to make a new playstyle feel more essential. It's not just about who you roll, it's about when you roll. So basically every patch becomes a limited time ride. And if you don't buy the ticket, you're just watching from the outside. The fear of missing out. That's the part they don't need to advertise. Feeling that if you skip now, you're not just skipping the banner, you're skipping relevance, you're skipping mechanics, you're skipping an entire piece of the game that will quietly vanish once the patch is over. And no one says it out loud, but you feel it. That low buzz of pressure, that maybe you should just pull now, even if you're not sure. But what if they're good? What if the new content feels weird without them? What if they matter and you miss your chance to be a part of it? And the worst part? Sometimes that fear is right. And in that moment of panic, that desperate cling to relevance, you find yourself reaching into your pocket for that credit card. At the end of the day, could honkaistarrail have done better? Could it have found a new way to allow for deeper long-term character arcs without sacrificing the need for new shiny toys? And the simple answer is yes. But the bigger question is, why hasn't it?
Money!
If we look at other games that take a more patient, long-term approach to character development, it's clear that it doesn't have to be this way. One of the things I really admire about Wuthering Waves is how it handles character-driven side quests. In the game, they have something called companion quests, which are designed to explore the character's past, motivation, and emotional depth, which makes the character feel more important, giving players a chance to bond with them on a deeper level beyond just the main storyline. They use high-quality cutscenes that immerse players in the emotions and growth of a character, allowing them to further experience and connect with their journey. In Wuthering Waves, every limited character comes with their own dedicated companion quest. Now compare that to honkaistarrail. When popular limited characters like Acheron, Firefly, or Fei Xiao are released, there's often no dedicated companion quest to really dive into their stories. These characters get a lot of attention at launch, but after their banners end, it feels like they vanish from the spotlight. The absence of these quests leaves the characters feeling less developed in the long run, especially for players who might have pulled them specifically for their character story or depth. It's not that the game couldn't benefit from long-term character arcs or more meaningful involvement. It's that the current structure focuses on quick bursts of content, new toys, fast-paced updates, doesn't prioritize these deeper connections. But what if they did? This is something honkaistarrail has dabbled in, but it's still pretty rare. It doesn't have to be a huge central role, but why not have older characters show up in other arcs, even if it's just for a brief moment? Now, I know this is already kind of a thing, but why can't we have more of it? This could be as simple as a passing encounter, or a dialogue exchange that hints at their continued existence and development. The idea here is to create a sense of continuity. A reminder that the world doesn't reset after every new patch, that the characters who touched us earlier on still live in this universe, evolving just like the story around them. Starrail knows how to create these unforgettable moments. They know how to make us fall in love with these characters, and with their arcs, with themes that hit a little too close to home. But then, just as quickly, they move on. Seele is still my most wanted limited 5-star, the first character I chose, not because she was the best unit at the time, not because of her numbers and her scalings. In fact, most people probably agree that she's one of the worst limited. Characters like her come and go, and what stays with you isn't the damage numbers or the tier lists. It's that quiet connection the game doesn't always let you hold on to. I really hate the state of endgame right now, the endless HP inflation. It's really exhausting watching the older units get left behind. And lately, even the main story is starting to lose its spark. In fact, there are so many complaints and controversy swirling around the game lately, with more and more players, and even longtime content creators who are stepping away from the game. But the characters, they're what keeps me coming back. Not the meta, just the hope that maybe somewhere down the line, the game will remember what made these characters so special in the first place. Because even if the game isn't designed for long-term attachment, we, as players, are. We care. Or at least, I care.